Hello, everybody.
No, it says it's starting.
There we go. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome to Light the Heart podcast. I'm Abby.
And I'm Becca, and we are back after a ridiculous snowstorm last week that obliterated the idea of travel
Yes,
for purposes of this podcast.
yes. And everyone's safety.
Yes.
I don't know about you, Becca, but last week I felt really relieved by the snowstorm. It felt like, at least in the beginning, it felt like some of my pressure just kind of like floated off and I could just be just right. But I will say, towards Thursday, I was ready to get back.
Yeah. I was like, all right, I think this is enough. Of course, my son decided to get sick at the best time ever, so that was great.
I know, so many people are sick right now.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are not well right now.
So what's the message behind that, Becca? You think the snowstorm, people are a little, spreading some sickness around, we're feeling tired.
Well, hibernate, duh. I think the big thing is we should be hibernating.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And it feels good to hibernate, And when you feel you're charged up, out back into the world we go.
Well, it's really interesting because I think it was last week, I was like, scrolling around or whatever, and saw this article about how in some Scandinavian countries, they literally stay home and sleep during the winter. Like they don't do anything in the winter.
Oh my God.
Like they go with nature
Mm-hmm.
and they just kind of cocoon.
Yeah. Why wouldn't we learn from nature? Why wouldn't we replicate
Well,
the
we're
seasons
part of
and the
nature.
animals and what they're doing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There is less movement.
Yeah. And I think it is because we forget that we are nature.
We do.
We are nature.
We get sucked into the vortex of the bills and the to-dos of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the
and distracted,
things.
Right?
Yeah.
We get really distracted by a lot of things that are going on.
Well, and I think society is designed to keep us distracted.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should talk about the word distracted.
Yeah.
So the word distract actually comes from like medieval times.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a torture mechanism in which if you were against the church or did something wrong against the government or the lord of the land you lived on or whatever, or broke the law, you would be distracted. So what distracted was taking horses and attaching them to each of your limbs and pulling you apart, distracting you from your core. Mm-hmm. And so when we say we're distracted, it means we're pulled apart or pulled away from. Mm-hmm. And, that usually distraction leads to disappointment. And to be disappointed is to be pulled away from your assignment.
Excellent.
And so I think, we've built a society that is designed to distract us, to pull us away from our assignment.
Yeah, your appointment.
Our appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as like spiritual beings, really.
Yeah, I see that in every aspect, really, Like even when you look at our children, right, that might not necessarily have the weight or responsibility or accountability that adults do. Even when you look at our children in our community, they're experiencing distractions from their own appointment, right? And I see this often because, I have kids and my daughter is a loving and strong-willed young woman, and she becomes, a little distracted from her own appointment, and all of a sudden we're not ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? And we're not really showing our true light, and that's when we can, experience difficulty. And it's fair that she's distracted. She's a teenager, she's in middle school. We've got, competition energy there.
Oh yeah.
For a lot of kids, and social media,
Well,
technology.
and that's designed specifically to do that.
Yeah.
And I find it very interesting that our education system is definitely designed for that as well. So, you go to school for all these hours and then you go home and do homework, which is, just setting you up to work at home after you're done working and take all that crap with you when you become a good bee, a good busy worker,
That's right?
To make money for other people.
That's right.
And then there's sports, which are great. I think sports are fabulous.
Excellent.
But I think our kids are like very inundated with things to do instead of just being a growing human.
Yeah, like how many kids do you hear today that are bored and create their own entertainment?
None.
It's very difficult to find that. Like we still see it in a lot of younger kids, but when you reach a point of like prepubescent and adolescence, there is a level of, just not ever wanting to be
It's
bored.
the obliteration of imagination, which is the tap into the dream body and our intuition.
Yes.
So that's being systemically destroyed.
We're being cut off from spirit. We're
like
being cut off from connection, with the deepest parts of our soul.
Yeah. Sit in your house on your device and have people talk crap about you or whatever.
That does happen in
That's
school.
what happens.
It happens
right?
in adulthood.
Yeah. So I think, it's very easy for us to be put off of our path.
Yeah.
Right. And so once I found this information about, really, because defining terms is so important. I cannot stress this enough. Defining words and what they mean to us is super, super important because everything is neutral until we assign value to it. And if we understand what things actually mean, we can correct. Words have a lot of power. Then we can correct how we're framing things, not just in our mind, but when we say it out loud, which gives it so much power. So instead of saying I'm distracted or I'm disappointed, I will say I am attracted to my assignment or I'm attracted to my appointment. So that is redirecting.
And so what you're bringing up is really just a first step or implementation in not being distracted, having more conscious action throughout our day, and, giving us some kind of direction of where to go to stop being so distracted.
Yes.
And so, in order to do that, we do need to practice mindfulness so that we can become more aware of our body, more aware of our energy, and when we're being distracted.
Yes.
Which is tricky sometimes because of what we said earlier.
Right, exactly. And especially if you have a bunch of things that you need to get done.
Yeah.
So it can be super helpful to have consistent things, actually, because we rely on our calendars, we rely on schedules. That's the society we're in. So I think it can be extremely beneficial to build that into our everyday schedule. For instance, when we first met, and I was like, sorry, just getting up from a nap.
Yeah.
I love naps.
Self-care.
They're the best.
Self-care. So that's the thing I run into a lot with my own patients, with myself. I will call myself out. With, friends and things like that. I see a lot of people making excuses, myself making excuses because I don't have the time.
Yeah.
Right? To infiltrate my routine.
Right.
But it's so simple. Like, okay, one of my patients last week inspired me so. She came in and she was like, I feel great. Like, I feel full of energy. I feel really joyful. I feel like I have full capacity right now. And I'm like, what did you do?
Yeah.
For 5 days, at that point when she had come in, she had just added one tiny little moment to each day, stretching. Just one little moment to connect with her body, to feel into her body, to care and nourish her body. And just this little moment she took every day.
Yeah.
In just 5 days, she's got, this elevation of capacity, of mood, of
Yeah.
wellness overall. And, you know, I just saw her yesterday again, and she's still going strong with this stretching. And that's just the one little simple movement she's made in her journey at this point, because we don't have to overwhelm ourselves.
Well, and I think that's a really good point. I think both of us encounter people all the time that are like, yeah, but I have to do all these things. I need to make all these huge changes, you know, like, and I don't have time. And I'm like, you don't need a whole bunch of big sweeping changes to make an impact. You need to do one thing, small, like people who want to meditate more, be more mindful. Oh, well, I don't have time to meditate. You only need, meditation is a practice. And so a person is in better shape with mindfulness if they meditate every day for 5 minutes versus the person who meditates once a week for an hour.
Let's pause on that for a second, because this, when you told me this a few months back, when I first took your meditation course, my hair was blown back. Okay, like think about that, you guys. Like just 5 minutes. There is no excuse at all to not spend 5 minutes on ourselves, and it doesn't have to be meditation. It can be mindfulness. It can be deep breathing. It can be an energetic cleansing practice. It can be dancing and listening to music.
It could be a yoga.
Whatever floats your beautiful boat, and whatever makes your soul shine, do that. And just spend 5 little minutes, and you're going to be better off than the people that are like, I just did this one, hour meditation last week, and I'm feeling great. Well, 5 minutes of that repetitive same practice, you're going to be feeling really great. Really great.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you brought that up.
Yeah, and I think, that then once we have, dedicated that 5 minutes, then we can be like, you know what, well, maybe I add another 5 minutes to that, and really when I'm working with people, the goal is just have a 20-minute thing.
Yeah.
Build up to 20 minutes, which doesn't seem, it's not a lot of time.
It's really not.
But we start with 5 because it could be so hard for us to even do anything for ourselves. And so asking, somebody to find 20 minutes, it just seems like a lot, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, let's talk about the root of this, you guys. So, like, underneath some of, like, what Becca just stated, right? Like, it can be very difficult for ourselves to do things for ourselves. So, what is at the root of that? Why must we punish ourselves? Why must we say, I'm really strong, I can do it, and just keep pushing? Like, really, is it strong to drag ourselves through like shards of glass or down a hill and hit trees on the way down?
Well, I think
is it?
I think it has. I think there are multiple factors, obviously, but I think there are some that are really sticking out to me.
Okay,
so I would say number one, the idea of in Western society to be hyper independent. So like being, doing everything independently on your own and not needing anybody is like part of our culture.
Yeah.
And it's super unhealthy.
Yeah.
Because like, let's be real. Is each individual going to then, like, we're really talking real independence, is each individual going to grow their own food, have all their own animals, learn all the trades that they would need to be able to like sustain their own life and like participate in society? Like, that's so unrealistic.
No.
And then we do it with our emotional stuff. We basically say like emotions and things like that are, shouldn't impact what we're doing, right? Or our body shouldn't impact what we're doing,
That's a big one
and
too.
I think that is a huge mistake to pull those things away from each other. Yeah. And so I think that's the first thing. The second thing that sticks out to me is, just this idea that we need to, it's really weird because like we're supposed to be independent, but we're supposed to be like everybody else at the same time.
Tell me more about that.
Okay, so like we're supposed to, fit in with the society.
Yes.
We should have this type of real job and have this level of income and have this type of home in this much space and interact socially and
go outside with your hair brushed,
do all of these things, you know, and then be dishonest about how we're doing too. So then when we do go out and be social, we're supposed to say, "How are you?" And the other person's supposed to say, "I'm fine, thanks."
Political.
It's so weird.
It's like the societal politeness, right?
It's so weird.
That is ingrained in our society. Okay, while we're on the topic, I do challenge all of you to actually say how you are when someone asks you.
Be honest. See what happens.
You know, you really just don't feel like it, but it really is good to start breaking mental health stigma. And that's a very small act we can do, is just go out in the world and be fully authentic. And it's not like you have to tell them your whole life story. Just say, you know what, today has been a little rough, but I'm hanging in there. You know, like just be honest with people. The more honest we are with others, the more honest our relationships are.
Yeah.
And talking about the hyper independence that Becca was speaking on, and just to elaborate a tiny bit more on it, I feel like not only does that come from society, but it comes from our own family structures as well, and our own roles within the family structures. There are many of us that are even more susceptible to, really grinding ourselves thin, doing everything for others, because of certain patterns, certain wounds, and certain things that protected them in childhood that they're continuing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that ties in with, the fact that we have this, like, we walk around saying everything is fine, and then we wonder why we feel so isolated and alone in our personal experience, but we're walking around lying to each other about how we're doing and what our personal experience actually is. So if we were honest with each other about how we actually feel and what our experience like is in the moment, we probably wouldn't feel alone, because everybody that's human has the same range of emotions and experiences various like oscillations in it over time. And so if we walk around telling everybody we're fine and putting on a mask that we're fine, then we are further isolating ourselves from connection with others and from community that could be supportive and feeling like getting the assistance or help that we want. And I think it's dangerous, and it's a big, why are we walking around with these masks on and everybody feeling so isolated? And then we're afraid to ask for help because we've been so disappointed in the past and it's not so socially acceptable. And so then we have this big wound and we're hyper independent.
Yes, exactly. And that is another culprit and factor and layer within our high suicide rates and self-harm rates. And I think if, I bet you anybody in our community knows of somebody that has experienced that. And I feel like if we want to change our community to be a more receiving and helpful and supportive space for people that are feeling isolated, that are feeling, alone and trapped and stuck, I feel like this is a really small and easy step for all of us to make, to be able to just be authentic. And to hold space for others when we do notice that somebody is struggling.
I agree. It's like when oh, how you doing? Oh, living the dream. What if we really were, though?
We could.
Instead of making it some sarcastic response.
Yeah, because words really are important, and the emotion behind the word is really important. So as Becca stated earlier, like, we do really have to focus on our definitions, our thoughts that are so powerful, and our words. But not only that, like, if I just sit here and I tell myself, like, let's pretend I'm by myself, pumping myself up with affirmations because I need to, like, increase my self-worth or something. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm strong. I'm really valuable. I don't think that just because I use the right words,
right,
that one's going
to
stick.
feel it. You have to believe it. Get to a point of believing it so that you can get to a point of knowing it. Knowing is where it's really at. There's a big difference there. But at least believe it. And so say it with force so that you can feel it in your body, so that you can believe it.
And let's say I couldn't say, like, what was one of the ones I said? I am strong.
Yeah.
Let's say if I can't say yet fully and powerfully with my emotion, with my energy, that I am strong, then I need to go back just a touch and see what I do believe in.
Like maybe I'm capable.
There. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. You know, and if I really believe I'm capable, then I can start there and work my way towards I'm strong. But you know, that's a good combination, another implementation that you can do to continue to work on a conscious action path, to not be distracted by this and that and the other thing. And we notice we're distracted. Here's some ways to figure out you're distracted. There's fear present. Fear present. You know, and I've been talking about, this has been coming up in the collective. Fear, just like any other emotion, is a message. It's a message. It's not meant to come in and have you spiral down into the pits of despair.
Right.
It's not meant for you to get stuck in it. It's just a message. What do you think the message of fear is trying to tell us?
It's supposed to make you aware of something that you should be facing. So we have fear around things we don't know, don't understand, or don't want to do. Don't know the outcome for. And so that's typically where fear comes up, right?
Yeah.
What happens if we face fear and do the thing and find out? It has no more power. Yeah. It loses its power completely. So whenever you're afraid, that tells me you should probably do the thing.
Yes. Face it, move through it, and be done with it. Yeah. Keep it pushing.
You're gonna be growth and finding our power is a very scary thing.
It is.
Because we don't know that outcome right now, and we want so badly, because of our training in society, to know exactly what's going to happen and exactly what it's going to feel like and exactly what it's going to look like and exactly where we're going to end up. Where's the joy in that?
Exactly. And, you know, there really are some things that happen to us or that are in the world that could be scary, that could be unpredictable, but it's not meant, like when it comes up, you guys, it's not meant for you to sit in it and wallow in it. Do something about it then.
Well, and I think the other thing that comes up is like, if you've had a poor experience around that thing previously, then there's fear that it'll happen again.
That's a good point.
But if you don't change the way, so usually if that occurred, right, something needs to change in the process that you're doing, or the viewpoint that you have, or something of that nature. But that doesn't mean you never do it again,
right? Because
you're afraid that you're going to have the same outcome. You just don't do it the same way, which would be the definition of insanity, right? You do it a different way, and now you're learning. So failure is an opportunity to learn and grow. And we have fear around that, I think, because it's the unknown. We're afraid of the unknown.
Yeah. You added a fifth element to fear, right? Is that piece. I think it's interesting that we're talking about this, especially in terms of, you know, just the energy right now that we have. I really do find it pressing right now that a lot of us, you know, when fear comes up, we find a way to alchemize the fear, find a way to alchemize it, and turn it into something different. When you look at the emotional guidance scale, within the vibrational frequency of different emotions, fear is a lower vibrational frequency emotion, and you know, empowerment and love and joy is a higher vibrational frequency emotion. Anger's in the middle. So if y'all could just get pissed if you're scared, you're on your way
We're
up.
on your
there,
way
right?
up.
And anger usually gets us to do something about it.
And anger gets a bad rap. It's so weird.
Oh, I love anger. She's
like if
favorite.
You're not angry, like if somebody does you wrong or you have a bad experience that you should be angry about and you're not, try to get there,
please,
because anger can be very productive. Now, we don't want to stay there forever.
No.
Like, and here's the thing, anger is like the most socially acceptable emotion to have anyway. So it's very safe to be angry. It can propel action. Because if you get angry, it gives you momentum to do an action, to change something. Exactly. It's a very useful emotion if we use the emotion.
It is. And then once you use it, it alchemizes, right? And so anger gets a bad rap, rage gets a bad rap, but there is nothing wrong with receiving a message of anger or rage, using that, right, as a reflection moment. Why does this make me so angry? Mm-hmm. What is, going on in my heart space, in my spirit, and what do I want to do about this?
Well, and anger is a righteous thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, when we are done wrong, we should be angry.
Yeah. Yeah. We should. And so it's really just about, the bad rap is how we express it, right? Mm-hmm. It's how we express it. And a lot of people that express it in a harmful way, mm-hmm. they haven't been expressing it. They've been keeping it inside and just stuff.
And then it comes out at the worst times in the worst way possible.
Yeah. And we've all been
where they don't even want it to go.
Right.
So if you just deal with it when you're in the moment, when you're actually angry about the thing, mm-hmm. instead of suppressing it, mm-hmm. then it's a functional emotional response.
Yes. And then when we move through anger, we are going whoop closer to the emotional states that feel really good, that empower us, that get us to do the conscious action mm-hmm. that we want to do.
Because that anger is transformed into something else, just like fear can be transformed into something else. Yeah. Right? Because energy just is transformed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
let's see what we got. Somebody said something. For men, it is, hey Sarah. For men, it is, okay, I don't remember what we were talking about.
So for men, so this is why I said it's the most socially acceptable emotion, because it's really the primary emotion that men are taught is safe to have. Like, men are taught from a very young age that emotions should be suppressed or are bad or are only for women or children, and they shouldn't be a child as quickly as possible also, right? And so it becomes a default emotion, and anger typically covers the core emotion underneath it, and it's socially acceptable for men to be angry. So when men have all these wide range of emotions, they're like, oh, well, that's not okay to feel or have, and they stuff that down, and then they stuff all the other ones, and then what covers all of it? Anger, because that's okay for a man to express or show. And then it comes out explosively in areas toward people they don't want it to including themselves, right? And they haven't been taught typically, or it hasn't been acceptable for them to be like, well, I'm sad about this, or actually I wanted connection and intimacy, and I wanted to be able to express, how heavy my day is, or the things that I'm going through. Mm-hmm. I think we put so much pressure on men, and we talk a lot about, I don't think we talk enough about it.
No, we don't, and I do believe it's because we've been oppressed for so long by the patriarchy, so it's difficult to see that as they're struggling. But if you look at the suicide numbers, if you look at the manslaughter numbers, our men need help, and it's because of this anger covering. And so if all of us have men in our lives, so I think it's really important to model mm-hmm. how to be emotionally vulnerable, how to say, I'm angry, but there's mm-hmm. also something else there. I think I'm actually feeling really disheartened and kind of like betrayed.
Yeah.
And just kind of modeling that for them, that there are these other emotions out there, because it leaves our men confused.
Yeah.
And then it leaves them distracted. And then they're heading in a direction that really is not of their own choosing, because they can't really see what's correctly there.
Well, and they don't even know how to organize these emotions or what the names for them are.
And there's women like this that out there too. Tons of women out there like this.
And I think Sarah brings up another good point. She said when women are angry, they're classified as bitches. Well, I think part of that is because, women are typically socialized to be people pleasers. Okay, and so when we get angry, we're not fitting in that role anymore. And anger's for men. So it goes right back into that same cycle. It's all part of the same cycle, which is super interesting, right? Like men are supposed to be strong and angry and unemotional, and women are supposed to be giving and doormats and whatever.
That's what
Not
perpetuates.
bitchy, but that's like the perpetuation of. That's what the overall perpetuation is. But like women wouldn't need to become so angry and fed up that they are perceived as bitches, right? If they were able to safely express their emotions, just like men should be able to safely express their emotions and be heard and seen in their experience of wanting to be, held and loved and not overburdened with certain tasks.
Yeah, definitely. I think when we want to see that breakdown in a man in our life, like the anger break down a little bit to go to the root of what's going on, the biggest thing that we can do, aside from, yes, modeling and showing your own emotional vulnerability, is creating safety. I think, there's a lot of things that happen in this world that kind of put a lot of responsibility, weight, pressure on a man specifically. And we as women in our divine feminine can hold a very nurturing space to allow the man to break down. And I've seen this within my own relationship with my husband. The more and more and more that I learn him, and I learn how to create a safe space, the more vulnerable and open and integrated they become. So it's very helpful.
Yeah, I think you're touching on something super important, because I think a lot of times when we as women hear the phrase create a safe space for men, we think that it means to process their emotions for them, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about making it so that your person can come to you and say what's really on their mind or heart without judgment, just like we want to be able to do with them. So we can hold space for whatever is going on instead of making it like about the relationship or about us.
Correct.
And it's more like, oh, you're having these things going on in your experience. Let me be here for you while you're like sharing that with me and experiencing it. And can I hold you? And I understand. And that sounds like a lot.
That's when women and men can do this too. That's when we need to put our friend hat on within our divine partnership.
Yes, great point.
Right? We really do need to just put our friend hat on. I think, and I've experienced this too within my own relationship with my husband. There are moments that I do get distracted, sucked into the physical, and I forget, like, I'm a whole ass friend to my beautiful man.
Yeah.
And, I'm not just wife, I'm not just mom, mother of his kids, I'm his bestie. And I think if we just lean into that more within our partnerships, that can be really supportive and loving.
You will watch the armor fall off.
Yes.
And and it's so cool because like you can see it go back on when they're like interacting with other people, and you get this secret special version of them. Yeah. It's like super precious.
It's so precious. And it starts with us, being vulnerable, being open. But yeah, I really like your comments, Sarah. I think just to add to your last one as well, The Dance of Anger is a really beautiful book. The author I'm misplacing at the moment, but if you do type in The Dance of Anger, it will come up. The book's probably 30 years old, but she speaks of the dance as women that we go through from the nice lady syndrome to the angry bitch, and really speaking out. We just spoke on, but to such a depth. It's a very interesting book, and after I read it a few years back, I was more able to kind of come from passive aggressive in some of my communication to more assertive. Just respectful, but very assertive.
Men love assertive women, by the way.
Yes, and so do friendships. Within Beck and I's friendship, we're new besties, and we're still learning each other. And so, like yesterday, we both learned that I needed to be more assertive, and Becca's always really good at being assertive. So we are communicating and learning each other, but it has to be through assertion,
right,
and through vulnerability. If I just ate stuff up, or she ate stuff up, and we didn't talk,
right,
we'd be little meanies to each other, and hold resentments. And I never want to hold resentment for somebody I love so much.
So and it was so cute too, because I was working on these big admin tasks, right?
She was deep in the
and I was in it because I've got really bad ADD, so I was awesome, I'm super hyper focused, I think it's been 10 minutes, it's been 2 hours or some dumb shit.
Yeah,
I thought it was 10 minutes. Literally. And I was did you eat? And I'm yeah, earlier I had some crackers. I'm why is she asking me this? I couldn't figure it out because ADD, all the tisms were in high gear. Okay. And then she hangs out for a little while. I don't even know how long it was because I was in it. And then she's okay, well, I guess I'm gonna go home and eat. And I'm wait, were you asking me if I was hungry because you wanted to go eat?
So now I know when Becca is hyperfixated and deep in the sauce, I just have to boldly say, not in my quiet little Abby voice, but boldly, assertively say, would you like to go eat with me right now?
And then I'd be oh yeah, let me wrap up this one thing, let's go. I totally forgot that I should do something like that.
But we're still learning each other, right? And we've known each other for a little over a year, but I think it's still important to understand that that's still new.
Yeah.
And that we don't know each other fully, and that it's still, even my husband, of being together for almost 15 years, we still are learning each other even, and there's little things that are unfolding. So having a beginner's mind within your relationships, within yourself.
Open and curious.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I love it.
This was so great.
It was fun.
How do you feel about our conversation today?
I feel really good.
I feel we did covered a really good topic area.
Yeah, there was a lot of things that we covered within it, and if anybody watching this later on has any questions, feel free to add in the comment section.
Yeah.
And Beck and I will get back to you, or if you have any thing you want to share in relation. Yeah.
And before we go, I do want to give a shout out to our recovery coach, Jessica People, again. So Jessica, Chaotic Good is partnering with Life Align Inc. And we, Jessica People, our recovery coach, is going to be doing two groups at Life Align starting in March. And one will be on Thursdays and one will be on Saturdays. So there will be a peer recovery support group and an emotional intelligence group that will be going on. And then here at Chaotic, and those will be at Life Align and led by Jessica. And then here at Chaotic Good, for any certified recovery coaches or peer support specialists out there, we are starting a community of practice for you guys to come with for clinical consult, all right, which should be great, and space for you guys to decompress and have community and do fun activities and get some spirit lifting things, and very soon to come after that, CEs, so trainings that will count toward your certification and maintaining your state certification. So we're super excited to be stepping into this area because I've done a lot of work in the recovery sphere, and it's super important to us here at Chaotic Good, and we love Life Align and we love Jessica, so we're super excited for this next expanded little thing we're doing.
Also too, I am offering my highly sensitive person and empath support, or I'm sorry, group series. It's 8 sessions, and it's going to begin next Thursday at 6. This one is for adults, and it is a series to work through what it means to be a highly sensitive person in detail, and have a safe place to find connection and community within that, so we don't feel so alone. Moving through energy balancing, cleansing techniques, learning some meditation techniques, and really beginning to build a practice and a ritual for really what we spoke about today. So if there are any highly sensitive people or empaths out there that would love to take this class, or you want to learn more about it, feel free to reach out to me through Chaotic Good, through my email, or through Messenger on there, and also on my Facebook page, on Chaotic Facebook page, we have the sign up link for the group. And we are doing a teen one as well. That will begin the next day, next Friday, and that one starts at 4, and it's for ages 12 to 17, and there's still room in both groups for people to sign up. So yeah.
I strongly encourage excuse me, anybody who feels overwhelmed by energy when they go into a room, anybody who feels like they take on other people's energy, anybody who feels like they receive information that they don't understand necessarily, anybody who has sensitivities to different foods or fabrics, and that's how your sensitivities are showing up because there's more going on. If you have any of these things going on, you may be a highly sensitive person. And I strongly recommend that you take Abby's class. It is phenomenal, and it will help you to understand yourself and meet others having the similar experience in a safe place. And it's phenomenal. I really hope that we get some more people. It's been a very, it's been a very useful class for everybody who's taken it.
And that's my favorite part too, Becca, about running this group, is really just seeing people that have once felt on an island, isolated, alone in their experience, finding each other and finding kindred spirits, and being able to move through this journey not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And learning from each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. Be well. Have a blessed day. Enjoy the sunshine.
We love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. Oh, my cursor won't move. Oh, there it goes.